Okay, let's dive into this. If you've ever felt like you're just stuck on a treadmill, putting in massive amounts of effort but getting absolutely nowhere fast, then this explainer of Xu Feng's text, The Way of Nature, Striving and Waiting, is going to be incredibly relevant for you today. We are exploring a pretty profound framework here, one that tackles that tricky, often elusive balance between our burning human ambitions and the sheer power of natural acceptance. Let's get started.
To kick things off, I want you to genuinely think about your answer to a simple but heavy question. What is the saddest thing in life? Take a second. Is it heartbreak? Is it losing everything you own? Sickness? Humanity has debated this for literally millennia. And, well, usually our minds go straight to those tangible, highly emotional losses.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the shift in perspective. Humanity usually focuses on those external agonies, the pain of parting from loved ones, destitution, or terrible sickness. But the author, Xu Feng, argues that the absolute ultimate tragedy is none of those external events. Instead, it's an entirely internal deficit, having no ideals, having no hope, zero goals, and lacking any sense of direction.
The text captures the weight of this idea beautifully and, honestly, tragically. To toil through life, running endlessly, only to end up empty-handed, dying without understanding or fulfillment, that is true sadness. I mean, think about the power of that imagery. It's the absolute tragedy of running a marathon at a full sprint, completely exhausting yourself, only to realize at the very end of your life that you were running without a compass. The daily effort was there, the exhaustion was real, but the deeper purpose was entirely missing.
So, to fix this terrible lack of direction, the author introduces a really powerful metaphorical concept. Think of life as a map, where your primary and most crucial duty is choosing your destination. We spend so much of our daily energy worrying about the vehicle we're driving or the speed at which we're traveling, right? But this philosophy insists that establishing the exact coordinates of where you want to end up is the true foundation of a fulfilled existence.
To properly read this map, we first have to understand how the source material defines life. Here, life on Earth is viewed strictly as a temporary journey. Everyone you interact with, and indeed you yourself, we're all merely travelers or passers-by in this world. The text argues that our time here, whether it's a life filled with extraordinary impact and luxurious villas, or a humble life of simple meals, is just a fleeting performance. A century goes by in the blink of an eye. So the critical task isn't accumulating a bunch of temporary earthly baggage, it's recognizing that life is a journey and deciding exactly where that journey concludes.
So where exactly can this journey lead? Xu Feng's framework categorizes 8 possible final destinations into 3 distinct tiers. You have the higher realms, which include the heavenly realm and the Elysium world. Then the earthly realms, like returning to the human world, the animal realm, or the plant realm. And finally, the lower realms, like the netherworld, the frozen layer, or the fire refinement layer. The text suggests that setting your sights on a specific destination before embarking on your journey is life's single most critical task. With a clear direction, your life becomes wonderfully simple. Without it, life remains completely chaotic and aimless.
Just to give us context on where the author is coming from, Xu Feng and the Chanyate Celestials follow what they term the way of the greatest creator. They aim to climb steadily towards specific higher realms, the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and the Celestial Islands continent within the Elysium world. Because they have established these exact spiritual GPS coordinates, their daily life path becomes exceedingly clear to them.
Let's move on and see how this builds. Once you have your map and your destination is set, how do you actually drive the car? This brings us to the core methodology of the text, following the way of nature. It's one thing to know where you want to go, but the manner in which you travel makes all the difference between a joyful, graceful journey and a miserable, anxiety-filled trek.
The text provides very clear travel advice for this. Along your path, you are inevitably going to encounter glorious sunny skies, but you're also going to be hit by brutal, punishing storms. That's a given. You'll get to cruise on wide, easy highways, and you will find yourself navigating terrifyingly narrow paths. The advice here? Appreciate all of it as part of the scenery. Walk with absolute ease and grace. Open your heart to the sun and moon, and do so completely free from attachment, hurry, worry, or fear. The obstacles aren't blocking your path. They literally are your path.
And this brings us to one of the most evocative metaphors in the source material. When the melon is ripe, it falls from the vine. When water flows, a channel forms. That perfectly encapsulates the essence of the way of nature.
Everything must be achieved naturally. There is a precise, inherent timing to the universe. A melon doesn't need to be violently ripped from the vine. It lets go exactly when it's ready. Water doesn't anxiously force a path. Its natural, persistent movement is what creates the channel.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy. Just look at the dichotomy. Forcing the journey, trying to hasten destiny, it just breeds anxiety, harsh competition, and deep impatience. It's human nature to want things now, but psychologically speaking, that constant impatience just spikes our cortisol and leads us right into a labyrinth where we get lost. The way of nature offers a profoundly different approach, active yielding. It requires successfully combining deliberate, conscious effort with a mindset of just letting things take their natural course.
So how do we actively yield? How do we quantify this delicate balance between striving for our goals and waiting for the melon to drop? Let's look under the hood at the actual engine of this philosophy. The text breaks this dynamic down into a very specific mathematical formula known as the 30-70 rule. This is the practical mechanics of how achievement actually functions.
So, the crucial point is right here in this chart. According to the text, if you want to achieve something, fulfill a lifelong wish, or realize a grand ideal, your personal effort actually only accounts for 30% of the outcome. A massive 70% of the result is entirely out of your direct, immediate control, grouped together under the label of destiny. Now, for those of us culturally conditioned to hustle 24/7, that ratio might induce a mild panic attack, but it's a vital tenet for avoiding that empty-handed exhaustion we talked about earlier.
You're likely wondering, well, what exactly lives inside that massive 70% slice of the pie? The text outlines it very clearly. This destiny is made up of grand, natural factors: the greatest creator, the way, the overarching program of the universe, timing, location, and harmony. These are the massive, invisible gears turning in the background of our reality. Our human wisdom and our physical efforts are, by definition, inherently limited when placed up against these colossal natural forces.
To really drive this concept home, the author bluntly states, if the timing is wrong or the circumstances are unfavorable, all efforts will be in vain. You could have the most brilliant plan, the absolute highest work ethic, and the purest intentions. But if the universal timing isn't right, if that 70% isn't aligned with your 30%, you are going to be pushing a boulder up a very steep hill. The heavens aren't just going to drop gifts into your lap without your effort, but you also simply cannot force the heavens to open before it's time.
Which naturally brings us to our conclusion. How do we synthesize this philosophy into our daily lives? The text grounds everything we've discussed into a highly tangible, practical process using an agricultural metaphor: cultivating the harvest. It takes this highly abstract spiritual concept of aligning with destiny and applies it to something as grounded, earthy, and understandable as farming.
Think of it like growing a watermelon. Step 1, sow the seeds. That's your 30% effort. Heaven helps those who help themselves. And there are absolutely no free lunches. Step 2, nourish. You have to water, fertilize, and clear the weeds so you don't just drift aimlessly off course. But step 3 is where people stumble. Wait. A watermelon has its own required growth period. You cannot scream at a watermelon to grow faster. You must have the profound patience to step back and let nature do its 70%. Striving and waiting are inseparable partners here.
Consider this powerful proverb cited in the text: 10 months of pregnancy lead to 1 day of birth. Think about how deeply true that is. You simply cannot speed up fundamental human development just because you feel impatient or you're in a hurry. Rushing achieves absolutely nothing. The exact same logic applies to your life's goals, your grand ideals, and reaching your ultimate destination. You must put in the nourishment, but you absolutely must respect the natural incubation period.
So how do we successfully walk this path every single day? The text leaves us with these highly actionable pieces of advice. Adapt to your circumstances. Flow with the changes of fate rather than fighting them. Act according to your inherent nature. And crucially, seize opportunities as they arise. By doing this, you aren't being passive. You are executing your 30% flawlessly, positioning yourself perfectly for when the universe naturally aligns that other 70%.
Which leaves us with one final, vital thought to consider. If you truly internalize this framework, if you accept that you genuinely have only 30% control over your life's final harvest, where would you strategically choose to plant your seeds today? Are you aiming at a destination that truly matters to you, or are you just running endlessly to avoid feeling empty-handed? Take some time today to reflect on your own map. Thank you for joining me for this explainer, and I genuinely hope it helps you find a beautiful, successful balance between your striving and your waiting.